Hey, this is Vu, and today I'm going to be talking about how to play A on DE Cash. Now, this is something that has about a million ways you can play it, so I'm going to show some things that'll make your play easier, and I'm going to show you some potential play styles you can use. Starting off, I'm going to show you the pretty simple smokes and flashes I tend to use while I play A. Now, for a first smoke, most people like to come up here and either throw right there or a little bit up from there. However, I prefer to throw it from back here. So what you can do is you can actually get into a little gap on this wheel right here, and you can either throw right here in the middle of this line if you want it to land a little bit shallow and fully block off A main, or if you want it to land a little bit deeper, you can aim directly up towards the top, and that will land a little bit deeper so that you can actually jump up behind it if you want and try and catch people the way that a lot of people kind of like to do that towards A main. I prefer to throw it from there, especially because I tend to play towards middle, which means I can actually throw this and then immediately rotate off. It's just a much quicker way to throw that smoke instead of getting into the corner here and delaying and wasting a little bit of time. Now, there are a couple of flashes I like to throw while I play A. The first one I like to use while I'm on an eco is specifically where you can actually have a player play towards forklift here, and you have one of your teammates play here, and as soon as he hears someone pushing up into A main, not at the very back, you can either throw at this line or you can throw a little bit up from the line actually, and that will go a little bit higher, land a little bit higher in A main and blind everybody here. And I've won countless rounds by having just a quick pop flash in there, someone comes around the corner, picks up a kill, or even comes around the corner, recognizes A main is clear, and we can actually rotate off based on that. It's actually a very effective way to try and get information on A main. Now, the other flash I throw is actually one when the enemy is executing, because what tends to happen is a terrorist team will throw a smoke sort of like this towards Speedway, and that will block off Speedway, and that's just kind of very, very common. Usually it lands a little bit deeper, but it can land like that as well. So to deal with that, one of the ways I like to throw flash is you can come right here and actually bank a flash off of that thing right there, this little walkway. You can throw it really from anywhere. You can throw it from back here if you want. Just you got to get a little bit used to how you can throw it. But the brilliant part about these flashes is they will land inside of the smoke. So what generally happens is players will come out towards A kind of looking over here, and they'll still get blind by this, as will anybody at forklift and anybody really in A main as well trying to clear out forklift. You blind pretty much everybody. So what you can actually do is you can throw a flash off of there and then peek out with it, or you can throw a flash off of there and kind of just stay towards sight just to delay them if you want. Now, one thing I would highly recommend when you play A, especially if you're opping, is you try and get your teammate that rotates up Speedway to throw a Molotov kind of like this. This is something I really like when I'm opping because it's kind of the counter to an A rush. What happens is if I'm opping towards quad, posted on A main, I'll get a pick, and then they'll start to try and rush me, especially from Squeaky. So if I can have a teammate that throws this Molotov, nearly every time, and they can actually get it to land all the time, you can block off that avenue where they have to push through a Molotov to get into sight. I know this works extremely well even if you're not opping quad, because one of the things that you can actually fairly effectively do a lot of the time is instead of forcing a fight and trying to fight or die at quad right here in a position where they can easily retrieve your gun and get a free gun out of it, especially if they're ecoing, what I tend to like to do is to play a situation where I can kind of get an entry pick over here and then I'll fall back towards the back of sight here, and a lot of time I'll just play in this general area. I'll have a teammate kind of watch that, or I'll pay attention to it to myself, and I'll try and catch them as they cross into sight, because when they cross, at least one free kill is given. You can back up, play it safe if you want, and you can get a lot done just by playing there. And you can still throw Molotovs towards the bomb plant spot if you want. You can get a lot done from that spot. And one of the reasons I really like that spot actually is because I like to play A like this sometimes, where I'll do this little B-hop, get up here, and actually op from right here. And what this means is I can get a free entry kill literally every time. I've only ever once had someone actually peek towards me here. I'm not sure what happened and why he did it, but it happened. And every other time I've ever died in this spot, it's because I've whiffed or I've legged the person I'm shooting at. generally it's pretty much a free kill to play here. Now, the one thing I will highly recommend when you play A is to recognize the idea that when their team gets mid control, you want to start to get aggressive towards A lot of the time. I find A is the more effective area to get aggressive towards when the enemy takes mid control, because you can so easily get pinched from these two areas, and even a good opper is going to have trouble landing these shots because they're not actually really easy shots to land, and you can really easily get picked off. So what I would highly recommend doing, especially if you're playing with a coordinated team, is you have one of your players who plays Speedway. When the enemy team is executing middle, for example, they smoke off Z and White Box, which happens even in Pugs, you have him default to kind of coming up towards Forklift, or especially if you're duoing A, because some teams do duo A. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. As soon as they start taking out mid, you just toss a pop flash into A main, and you try and get control of A main. So what you're doing is you're giving up mid control and getting A control instead. And one way you can actually do this if you're playing solo is you can come right here, you can aim over there, and you can throw it right there. That'll bounce right off there. So basically you just aim right there, bounce off the floor, come in around it, and it's not going to blind everybody because it doesn't land super deep, but it will blind people posted on this angle. Most importantly, it just won't blind someone kind of holding the angle like this, which is what you have to worry about. However, I feel like you might have a bit of an advantage on that player if you come around expecting someone to be there. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope this helped.